Most people don't realize this, but the way you treat yourself today was decided years ago, not by logic, not by choice, but by a handful of quiet thoughts you've been repeating without noticing. Thoughts that sound harmless, thoughts that feel familiar, thoughts that quietly decide how much love you allow yourself to receive. You don't wake up one day treating yourself badly on purpose. It happens slowly. In the tone you use when you make a mistake, in the way you push past exhaustion, in how quickly you forgive others, and how rarely you forgive yourself. These patterns feel normal until you see them clearly. Here is the truth most people miss. You are not responding to life as it is. You are responding to the thoughts you believe about yourself. Change those thoughts, and something deeper than behavior begins to shift. Your body listens, your emotions soften. Your world responds differently. If you've ever wondered why self-care feels hard, why kindness toward yourself feels uncomfortable, it's because certain thoughts taught you that love must be earned. That rest must be justified, that you are only worthy when you're useful, productive, or pleasing. These thoughts were not chosen, they were learned, absorbed during moments when you needed safety or approval. And because they've lived inside you for so long, they now sound like your own voice. But they are not the truth. They are habits of thinking. What if just one thought could change how you speak to yourself tomorrow morning? What if another could soften how you react when you fall short? And what if, slowly, those thoughts began to rewrite the relationship you have with your own heart? This is not about forcing positivity or pretending everything is fine. It's about choosing thoughts that heal instead of punish, thoughts that create safety instead of pressure, thoughts that teach your nervous system it no longer has to stay on guard. Listen closely. Not every thought deserves your loyalty. Some were formed in pain, some were built from misunderstanding, and some are ready to be released if you're willing to see them for what they are. Stay with this message. Let it unfold gently. The thoughts you're about to hear are small, simple, and powerful. And if you let them in, they won't just change how you think, they will change how you treat yourself, starting today. There is a gentle doorway that opens the moment you say, I am willing. You do not have to know how to change. You do not have to feel ready. You simply have to be willing. Willingness is the soft light that slips beneath the door of an old, dark room. It doesn't break anything open. It simply invites another way to enter. For many years, you may have lived with certain ideas about yourself, ideas formed in childhood, shaped by the tone of voices around you, carried into adulthood without question. When we are young, we do not know we are collecting beliefs. We accept everything as truth. We do not realize that we are absorbing opinions, moods, and fears that never belong to us. And yet, they settle in the mind and quietly shape how we treat ourselves. Self-criticism often doesn't begin with a decision. It begins with forgetting that we have a choice. When you repeat harsh thoughts long enough, they begin to feel familiar, and what feels familiar begins to feel normal. But familiarity is not truth. Familiarity is simply habit. And the beautiful thing about habits is that they can be changed gently, lovingly, moment by moment. Saying, I am willing to see myself differently is like placing a small lantern in the hands of your inner child. She may have been walking in dim corridors of old judgment for many years. She may have become accustomed to believing the worst about herself. But when you offer her willingness, she begins to see another path, a path lined with possibility rather than punishment. You do not need to force new thoughts right away. In fact, forcing only repeats the old pattern of pressure. Instead, let willingness be soft. Let it be a gentle opening, a whisper to yourself that sounds something like, perhaps I am kinder than I believed. Perhaps I am more deserving than I was taught. Perhaps there is another way. These small perhapses are great healers. They loosen the soil where new beliefs can grow. Notice how your body responds when you consider seeing yourself differently. Perhaps your chest softens. Perhaps your breath becomes quieter. Perhaps there is a small feeling of relief, relief that you no longer have to defend old thoughts. The body recognizes truth before the mind does. And your body knows that you are not meant to live under the weight of harshness. When you say, I am willing to see myself differently, you invite the mind to rest. You loosen its grip on the old stories. You allow the past to fade gently into the background, not forgotten, but no longer leading your life. You create a space within you where new compassion can grow. That space is sacred. That space is healing. That space is your beginning. The willingness to change is not a loud declaration. It is a soft shift. It is the moment the heart sighs and says, maybe I don't have to treat myself this way anymore. The mind may resist at first. Old thoughts may rise loudly, insisting that nothing can change. But willingness does not argue with them. It simply continues to open, like a flower turning toward the sun. Think of someone you once loved unconditionally, a child, an animal, a sweet memory of innocence. The kindness you directed outward can now be slowly redirected inward. Willingness helps you remember this. It helps you rediscover the gentleness you have always had. You are not learning compassion, you are remembering it. When you treat yourself with old criticism, you tighten. When you treat yourself with even a small drop of willingness, you soften. The softening is where transformation begins. You cannot grow from a place of tension. Growth requires warmth. Growth requires space. Growth requires a willingness to see what is beautiful in you. The thought, I am willing to see myself differently, is not asking you to erase your past. It is inviting you to reinterpret it. Instead of saying, I failed, you begin to say, I learned. Instead of saying, I am not enough, you begin to say, I am growing. Instead of saying, I am broken, you begin to say, I am healing. These shifts may seem small, but they are profound. They change how the heart feels inside the body. Every new beginning starts with willingness. Not certainty, not confidence, not perfection. Simply a willingness to loosen your grip on old pain and to allow a kinder thought to enter. Even if it feels fragile at first, even if you doubt it, willingness is the bridge between who you have been and who you are becoming. Let yourself rest in this thought for a moment. Feel its softness, feel its simplicity, feel its power. You are willing to see yourself differently. You are willing to see your life differently. You are willing to see your worth differently. And as this willingness settles in your heart, a quiet transformation begins, one that unfolds naturally, gently, in its own time. In part 2, this willingness becomes the foundation for a new inner voice, one that no longer speaks to you as an enemy, but as a loving companion. There is a moment, gentle yet powerful, when you begin to notice the tone you use with yourself. Not the words you say to others, but the quiet words spoken only within your mind. These words shape the atmosphere you live in. They color the way you see your body, your choices, your emotions, your very existence. And for many people, this inner voice has become an unintended enemy. Not by choice, not by intention, but by habit. Habits learned long before you had the awareness to question them. When you were very young, you listened to the voices around you. You absorbed their tone far more than their content. Children hear through feeling. They learn safety from softness and fear from tension. And so you learned without knowing which tones meant comfort and which meant danger, which meant approval and which meant disappointment. Over time, without ever deciding to, you began repeating those tones inwardly as you grew older. This is how the inner critic is born, not from truth, but from imitation. But now, as you step into this new thought, I no longer speak to myself as an enemy, you begin to reclaim your internal world. You begin to examine not whether your inner voice is correct, but whether it is kind. not whether it is efficient, but whether it is loving. You begin to notice how certain thoughts tighten your chest, how certain tones draw your shoulders inward, how self-judgment creates a small collapse inside the body, a collapse your inner child feels deeply. To heal, you do not need to silence the inner critic. You simply need to stop giving it authority. You simply need to hear it and respond with a different voice, the voice you are now learning to cultivate, the voice of love. Imagine for a moment that a child comes to you after making a mistake. She looks up at you with wide, uncertain eyes, waiting to know how you will respond. Will you scold her? Will you shame her? Will you remind her of every time she has ever failed? Or will you kneel gently, hold her hands, and say, "It's all right, my darling. Everyone makes mistakes. You are still lovable. You are still good. You are learning." When you speak to yourself as an enemy, your inner child hears harshness. When you speak to yourself as a friend, she hears safety, and safety is what allows her to grow. Begin to notice your inner tone in quiet moments. Notice what you say to yourself when you wake up, when you look in the mirror, when you forget something, when you feel tired. These are the moments when the inner enemy loves to rise. But these are also the moments when the inner friend can begin to take shape. Instead of saying, "I can't believe you did that," try whispering, "It's all right, sweetheart." Instead of saying, "You should be better than this," try. You're doing the best you can. Instead of tightening around your mistakes, try softening around them. Self-kindness is not about pretending everything is perfect. It is about removing punishment from the process of being human. When you remove punishment, learning becomes easier. Healing becomes faster. Life becomes softer. You may feel resistance at first. That is normal. If you have spoken harshly to yourself for many years, a gentle voice may feel strange, even unearned. But the only reason it feels unearned is because the inner critic has been speaking uninterrupted for so long. You are not unworthy of kindness. You are unaccustomed to it. There is a great difference. Let the new voice begin softly. You do not need to scold the critic. You do not need to fight it. Fighting simply creates more tension. Instead, allow the loving voice to speak beside it. Allow it to offer a different interpretation, a different feeling, a different way. Over time, the loving voice becomes the one you trust. One of the most healing truths you will ever learn is this: you cannot hate yourself into becoming the person you want to be. But you can love yourself into becoming the person you were always meant to be. The moment you stop speaking to yourself as an enemy, your heart begins to heal. Your nervous system softens. Your body feels less threatened by your own thoughts. You stop living in a constant state of inner alarm. And the child inside you, who once braced for every harsh word, begins to relax. She begins to believe that home, the home within you, might finally be safe. Pay attention to what your body does when you shift your tone. A harsh voice tightens the belly. A gentle voice warms the chest. A critical voice narrows the breath. A kind voice deepens it. Your body tells the truth. Your heart tells the truth. Your inner child tells the truth. Speak to yourself as a friend and see how quickly your body responds with relief. Self-talk is not simply mental chatter. It is the emotional environment your inner child lives in. When you speak harshly, she curls inward. When you speak kindly, she reaches out. She opens. She trusts. And trust leads to healing far more quickly than judgment ever could. Let this thought take root in you now. I no longer speak to myself as an enemy. Feel how empowering that is. Feel how freeing it is. Feel how tender it is. You are not abandoning yourself anymore. You are befriending yourself. You are learning to offer to yourself the love you once waited for. In part 3, this inner friendship will deepen as you learn to recognize and honor your own needs, needs that have been quiet for years, needs that are ready to be met. with tenderness. There is a quiet moment in every healing journey when you begin to realize that the needs you once dismissed, minimized, or apologized for are not inconveniences. They are messages, important messages. Your needs are not flaws. They are signals from your inner world gently reminding you that you have a heart, a body, a spirit that require care. And for many people, this realization feels foreign, even uncomfortable, because they learned early in life that their needs were too much, too loud, or too inconvenient. When a child grows up in an environment where their needs are not met with tenderness, they learn to silence themselves. They learn to pretend they are fine. They learn to adjust, to adapt, to anticipate others instead of feeling their own longings. Over time, ignoring their needs becomes second nature. It becomes a habit of survival. And that habit follows them into adulthood, where exhaustion becomes proof of effort and self-neglect becomes mistaken for strength. But here, in this new healing thought, you are learning something revolutionary. Your needs are sacred. They matter. They deserve tenderness. Imagine for a moment your inner child tugging gently at your sleeve. She does not have the words to explain her needs. She only knows how to feel them. When you dismiss your needs, she hears, "Your feelings do not matter." When you push yourself past exhaustion, she hears, "Your limits are not important." When you apologize for needing rest or comfort, she hears, "You must earn love by being easy." But when you pause, when you listen, when you respond with gentleness, she hears something entirely new. "I matter. I am allowed to need. I am allowed to rest. I am allowed to receive." This changes everything. Let yourself breathe softly as you consider this. For many years, you may have believed that attending to your needs was selfish. This belief is not natural. It was learned. And anything learned can be unlearned through love. Self-care is not indulgence. Self-care is responsibility. Self-care is how you show your inner child that she is worth tending to. Your needs are not interruptions. They are invitations, doorways to deeper self-understanding. When you feel tired, your body is speaking. When you feel overwhelmed, your emotions are speaking. When you feel lonely, your heart is speaking. When you feel anxious, your nervous system is speaking. These messages deserve your attention, not irritation, not dismissal. Attention. You may be surprised to discover how softly your needs speak. They do not shout, they whisper. And because you've spent many years overriding them, it may take time to hear them clearly again. That is all right. You are learning, you are returning. You are reawakening an inner relationship with yourself that was quiet for too long. Begin noticing the small signals throughout your day. A yawn you push aside. A sigh that slips out when you think no one notices. A heaviness behind your eyes after too many demands. A longing for silence. A desire to cry. A need for affection, warmth, time, softness. None of these signals are weaknesses. They are forms of communication. Your needs do not make you needy. Your needs make you human. And when you meet those needs with tenderness, something profound begins to happen. Your inner child relaxes. She learns that she does not have to shout to be heard. She learns that her desires will not be punished or ignored. She learns to trust the adult you, the part of you that can protect her, care for her, and offer what she could not find in childhood. Think for a moment about how gently you would care for a small child who is tired. You would not tell her she must earn her rest. You would not tell her she is dramatic for feeling overwhelmed. You would not tell her she is selfish for wanting comfort. You would gather her in your arms, stroke her hair, whisper kind words, and let her lean against you. This is how you must treat yourself now. When you acknowledge your needs, you are not being weak. You are being loving. You are being wise. You are being honest. And honesty is the beginning of healing. Many people live their lives ignoring their needs until their bodies force them to listen. But you do not have to wait for that. You can begin now with one gentle breath, one moment of permission, one whisper of reassurance that says, I am allowed to care for myself. Let yourself consider this thought deeply. When you treat your needs with tenderness, you teach your inner child that she is lovable. When you dismiss your needs, you teach her that she must shrink to be accepted. And she has shrunk for long enough. Your mind may try to tell you that others have it worse, or that you should be stronger, or that you don't deserve to slow down. These thoughts are remnants of old conditioning. They are not truths. They are echoes. And echoes fade in the presence of steady love. Begin replacing those old echoes with softer thoughts. My feelings are real. My needs are valid. I deserve comfort. It is safe to take care of myself. Feel how your body responds to these truths. Feel the gentle relief. Feel the softening that occurs when self-love replaces self-denial. As you continue this healing path, attending to your needs will no longer feel like a burden or an afterthought. It will feel natural. It will feel nourishing. It will feel like returning to a home you forgot you belonged to. And when your needs are met with tenderness, your entire inner world shifts. You become more patient with yourself, more accepting, more loving. You begin to create a life built not on pressure, but on care. And that care expands into every area of your being. In Part 4, this tenderness deepens as we explore what it means to rest, not as a luxury, not as a reward, but as your sacred right. There is a quiet belief many people carry, often without knowing, that rest must be justified, that comfort must be earned, that stillness must be